Imagine a company quietly taking on a tech giant like Cisco and winning. Well, that's exactly what Arista Networks is doing. And they're riding the wave of cloud computing and AI to do it. We're diving deep into their world today. And later on, I'll share a surprising fact about their customer service, something you won't find in the usual reports. If you're all about getting smarter faster, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. You've given us some great research on Arista Networks, so we'll unpack their business model, their management style, financials, and a whole lot more. And don't worry, we've linked all the sources below so you can explore further.
What's truly fascinating about Arista is how they've carved out this powerful position in a market that was, for a long time, Cisco's domain. Their strategy is clearly working.
Let's unpack that strategy. Arista specializes in high-performance networking for data centers and cloud computing, focusing on speed and handling massive amounts of data. They're essentially providing the infrastructure that lets companies like Microsoft and Meta function on the scale they do. But they're not just selling hardware, right?
Exactly. While their core products are Ethernet switches and routers, their real edge is their software. Specifically, their extensible operating system, EOS. Think of it as the brains behind their hardware. What makes EOS stand out is its simplicity and flexibility. For example, imagine a large financial institution needing to secure and manage high-frequency trading data. EOS allows Arista to tailor a solution that not only meets those specific security needs, but also integrates seamlessly with the institution's existing systems. This kind of customization is a huge selling point for clients, especially big telecom companies.
So it's not just about the hardware, it's about providing a tailored software-driven solution. It makes you wonder why everyone isn't doing this.
Well, shifting from a hardware-centric approach to a software-driven model is a huge undertaking, and many companies struggle to adapt.
Okay, that makes sense. But the networking world itself is evolving so rapidly, with things like networking as a service, edge computing, and the Internet of Things, all demanding faster and more secure networks. How is Arista positioned for all of that?
That's where their software focus becomes a major advantage. They can adapt and innovate much quicker than companies relying on traditional hardware. Networking as a service, for example, is a model where networking services are delivered on demand over the internet. Similar to cloud computing, Arista's flexible software makes them perfectly suited to capitalize on this trend. They can quickly develop and deploy new services that meet the evolving needs of their customers, putting them ahead of the curve in this dynamic landscape.
It sounds like they're playing chess while the competition's playing checkers.
Ugh.
But speaking of competition, they're not exactly alone in this space, are they?
Definitely not. Cisco, despite losing some ground, is still the giant in the room. You also have Juniper Networks and Huawei making their moves. But what's interesting is that Arista is winning over clients with their flexibility, their software, and, this is crucial, their close customer relationships.
Speaking of relationships, let's talk about the team driving Arista. They've been led by Jayshree Ullal since 2008. Not only has she navigated the company through periods of rapid growth, but she's also steered them through some choppy waters, like those Cisco lawsuits. I remember those making headlines.
Absolutely. Cisco went all in, claiming intellectual property infringement. It could have been a devastating blow for a younger company. But under Ullal's leadership, Arista fought back strategically. They implemented product modifications and eventually reached a settlement with Cisco. What's remarkable is that they emerged from that whole ordeal even stronger, which really speaks volumes about their leadership and resilience.
That's some serious leadership. It sounds like they took a potential disaster and turned it into a springboard.
Yeah.
But they haven't just been playing defense, right? They've been making some strategic moves to expand their capabilities.
Their acquisition of Mojo Networks for Wi-Fi was a smart play, recognizing the growing importance of wireless connectivity in enterprise networks. And then there's the acquisition of Big Switch Networks, which boosted their network visibility and security offerings. These acquisitions weren't just about adding features, they were about strategically positioning Arista for future growth in key areas.
It makes you wonder what they'll acquire next. But let's talk numbers for a moment. How is Arista doing financially?
As of January 23, 2025, their market cap is a massive $163.54 billion, with a price-to-earnings ratio of 62.34. This means that investors are willing to pay a premium for each dollar of Arista's earnings, indicating high expectations for future growth.
Those are definitely eye-catching figures, but what about their actual profitability? Are they turning those impressive figures into real earnings?
Absolutely. They have a revenue of $6.61 billion and a gross margin of 64.41%. But what really stands out is their operating margin of 42.11% and their net margin of 40.29%. This indicates that they're keeping a significant portion of their revenue after accounting for all costs. Even more impressive, they have virtually zero debt and a strong cash flow.
Okay, so financially, they seem to be firing on all cylinders. This makes me even more curious about how Wall Street views them. We'll dig into that after a quick break. But before we do, don't forget that all the research we're using for this deep dive is linked in the description below. And if you have a stock you'd like us to deep dive into, let us know in the comments.
So to your point about Wall Street, they seem pretty enamored with Arista. The average brokerage recommendation is hovering around a strong buy, which is a pretty strong indicator of positive sentiment.
It definitely sounds like they have Wall Street's attention. What kind of price targets are analysts setting?
The average price target is sitting around $115.03, but some analysts believe it could go as high as $135. Of course, these are just projections, and the stock market, as we know, can be a bit of a roller coaster.
For sure. It's always good to remember that those projections are just one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
What about recent news? Anything noteworthy happening that could impact their stock performance?
Well, there's been a lot of buzz around their involvement in the Stargate AI project, which is a massive undertaking. We're talking a $500 billion initiative backed by heavy hitters like OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle. It has the potential to be a game changer, and Arista is in a prime position to provide the networking backbone that this kind of ambitious AI development requires.
That's a pretty big deal. Are there any potential downsides or challenges that investors should be aware of?
Well, while the Stargate project is a huge opportunity, it also highlights the increasingly competitive landscape. NVIDIA, for example, is making a serious push into the data center networking market. This means Arista can't afford to rest on its laurels. They need to continue innovating and differentiating themselves to stay ahead of the pack.
It's a good reminder that even in the fast-paced world of tech, you can't stand still for too long. Now let's switch gears a bit and look at Arista's ownership structure. Who are the major players holding the stock?
Arista's ownership structure is quite interesting. Over 70% of their stock is held by institutional investors, which generally suggests a high degree of confidence in the company's long-term prospects. These are typically large organizations like mutual funds and pension funds that conduct extensive research before making substantial investments.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
These big institutions aren't known for throwing money around lightly. Yeah. What about insider ownership? Are the people running the show also putting their money where their mouths are?
Absolutely. Insiders also hold a sizable chunk of the stock, which shows that management has a vested interest in the company's success. This alignment of interest between management and shareholders can be a positive sign for investors. And another point worth mentioning is that there isn't a single shareholder with an overwhelming amount of control. It's a more diversified ownership structure.
So we've covered their business, their leadership, their financial performance, market sentiment, and even their ownership structure. What's the overall risk assessment for Arista? How should investors be thinking about potential risks and opportunities?
Let's break it down with a quick SWOT analysis. First, their strengths. They're a dominant force in cloud networking. They possess deep expertise in high-performance technology. Their financials are rock solid. They have a seasoned and experienced leadership team. And they demonstrate prudence in their financial management.
Those are some significant strengths. But no company is without vulnerabilities. What are some of the potential weaknesses that investors should consider?
One potential weakness is their reliance on a few large cloud clients. While this concentration has served them well so far, if one of these major clients were to significantly reduce their spending, it could have a noticeable impact on Arista's revenue. Another factor to consider is their tendency towards conservative forecasts. While this can be seen as prudent financial management, it might also limit their short-term stock performance. And of course, the IT market is cyclical by nature, meaning they're susceptible to economic downturns. That can impact spending across the entire industry.
Those are definitely points worth noting. But what about opportunities? Where could Arista find room to grow and expand in the future?
Well, the AI networking market is exploding right now. And as we discussed earlier, Arista is in an excellent position to capitalize on this growth. They're already a key beneficiary of the massive spending by cloud providers, and they have the expertise to further expand their market share in routing and switching. Additionally, they could explore new segments like campus networking, which could open up even more revenue streams.
So lots of potential for growth, but also some challenges to navigate. What are the major threats they need to keep an eye on?
The competitive landscape is constantly evolving, and companies like NVIDIA are eager to chip away at Arista's market share. They need to remain agile and continue innovating to stay ahead of the curve. Economic uncertainty is another factor to consider. as it could lead to reduced IT budgets across all sectors, impacting their client spending. Perhaps the biggest threat, though, is the risk of falling behind in the tech race. If they fail to anticipate and adapt to new technologies and trends, they could quickly lose their competitive edge.
So to sum it all up, what's the bottom line on Arista Networks?
From a value investor's perspective, Arista checks a lot of the right boxes. They have a strong competitive advantage, a proven management team, and incredibly solid financials. They're well-positioned for future growth, especially in the booming AI networking market. I think even Warren Buffett would take a second look at this company.
I can see why. Now, before we wrap things up, I promise to reveal a surprising fact about Arista's customer service. Ready for this?
I am. Lay it on me.
Arista customers have 247 direct access to their tech development team. Talk about going the extra mile for customer satisfaction.
Wow. That's incredible. It really demonstrates their commitment to supporting their clients. It probably plays a huge role in building those strong customer relationships we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it's definitely not something you see every day in the tech world. So to wrap things up, it seems like Arista Networks is a company worth keeping an eye on. They're a major player in the cloud networking space, and they seem to be making all the right moves to stay ahead of the game. But as with any investment, it's crucial to do your own thorough research before making any decisions.
Absolutely. The information we've discussed today is purely for educational purposes and is not intended as financial advice. We rely on reputable sources. But the tech world moves fast, and things can change quickly. Always consult with a financial professional. And conduct your own due diligence before making any investment choices.
Couldn't have said it better myself. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Arista Networks, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our next episode. We're always exploring fascinating companies and trends, and we love sharing our insights with you.
And remember, we use AI to help summarize information, but it doesn't replace human judgment and critical thinking. Those are still essential when evaluating any investment opportunity.
Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, keep learning and keep exploring.